making Jonas try my racket and review it.
I will review it.
Obviously, it's the best racket ever, and if it's
I'm not gonna doubt that.
you're cancelled.
Yes, it's clear to be cancelled, I think, at this point. It's strung with, is it Toroline O-Toro? No.
O-Toro mains,
And
sync crosses, leather grip, 336-ish swing weight.
And now 2 over grips because it was a bit...
Yeah.
Now it feels better. Yeah, it will be fun. I will give my 100% honest review, even if I hate it.
So as Jonas goes through his initial testing phase with my racket, I think I should tell you a little gossip about how Jonas hits as a player. That's probably the #1 question I'm getting from my friends coming back from this trip. They're all like, so is Tennis Nerd a good player? And I can, well, maybe you don't trust me because you think I'm at 3.5, but I think Jonas is pretty dang good tennis player. He can get a ton of power on his forehand. I think his ball really penetrates the court. He's good at finding depth, really dictating off that wing. It was, I wasn't surprised because, you know, he's talked about his Masters ITF results. I've played guys who are going to those Masters ITFs, and a lot of them are very tough to beat. Some of them it's because of power, some of them it's because of consistency. But the main thing, hitting the first couple balls with Jonas, this is the end of our trip here, so we were quite used to each other's ball. But even our first rally on the first day we hit, which was on the Tuesday, it was like I grooved with him instantly. One of the easiest guys I've hit with in terms of being able to find a rhythm. Maybe that's because I watched him play so much in his own videos. I kind of know what his strokes look like, what his stroke production is, how his body language is in terms of where he's going to hit the shot. But I think he just hits it's a really nice ball. You know, he plays every day. That's what you can expect. He's definitely one of the better players down at the Tennis Warehouse trip we went to, and it was honestly, even if he wasn't just an absolute G off the court and super awesome on the court, it's been a dream of mine to play tennis with the original Tennis Nerd. So that was awesome. In this clip here, I'm hitting with the Pro Staff 97. Jonas brought this with him. He got it at a hit with the Wilson team just before he came here when he was in LA, and man, every time I pick this thing up, it is absolutely awesome. One interesting piece of feedback that I did get from Jonas regarding my setup is that he, and other people have told me this as well, of course, he noticed that my ball speed and spin and just overall heaviness is so much higher with this Pure Aero Rafa. You know, we were in the warehouse trying a bunch of different frames. Most of it was pre-release stuff just because, you know, when you have the opportunity to hit pre-release, you're going to hit pre-release even if you can't talk about it. But he said, yeah, it's just like compared to everything else you've tried, and I tried some like really good rackets, ones that I really like. There's just something about my ball, the Pure Aero Rafa, that's extra hard, extra penetrating, extra spinny. The ball jumps a little bit more on the bounce because I'm getting those RPMs. And I think Jonas hit a pretty heavy ball with my racket as well. Trying a few like softer frames, like the Phantoms, like the Gravity Pros, I definitely noticed his ball slowed down. There were some frames that, you know, he definitely hits better with than my Rafa. I noticed that launchness was an issue. A big reason for that was the strings. This was the end of the week. I was about 50% notched through these bad boys. They could have easily broken during this hit. So I wasn't getting quite the same snapback that you'd expect from a fresh string job, but our schedule is so jam-packed, it's like, it wasn't super feasible for me to be able to give him that experience if he ever comes to Canada or Vancouver, which I would love, and I'm sure he would like if it wasn't such a long flight. That's definitely something that we will arrange. This whole trip was amazing. It was one of the best weeks of my life. I'm gonna try to do some sort of a vloggy situation. This whole trip was one of the best experiences of my life. Like, I've always been a huge fan of Tennis Warehouse. You know, I've been watching their videos since 2010. I've been using the forum for not quite that long, but close. I've been, you know, using their resources like Tennis Warehouse University and their databases, and those are all things they don't have to do as a retailer, but it's an extra part of their service package that they do provide, and they're the only ones who do that. And I personally think that they're one of the most important institutions in all of tennis, maybe more important than any single one manufacturer. Like, Tennis Warehouse, in terms of what they've done for the tennis community, might be beyond like Wilson or Babolat or Head, because they provide so many avenues for engagement among the community. And I think having us all there is a good example of that. It's a starting point for future collaboration. It gave me the opportunity to meet people I never would have been able to meet. Zach, Will from Tennis Tribe, Nea, who I'd never even seen her content on Instagram before because I'm not her target demographic. And of course, Jonas, who I've been watching for so many years. So, an absolute honor. And with all this gushing out of the way, and one final point, it's off to Tennis Nerd for the review.
All right, so you've hit a whopping, 10 minutes?
10 minutes.
Of my setup. That's all you need for
that's all we do for our reviews.
Yeah,
we do 10 minutes, and then we do 10 minutes recording, and then we just bathe in the sun.
Yeah. So you hit this stock before?
Yep. I tried to stock with different string setups for the review. Yeah. Whenever in your setup.
How did it compare stock versus how I have it set up?
This shows the importance of setting up your racket to your preference, and also like finding a way that the racket communicates well with the ball, and it works for your game. But also, if it works for you, it might well work for a lot of players, as we both know. And this one, like, I love playing with this one. It's like, it's really nice, solid feel. You feel like the stability. You have a good size sweet spot. You don't need to swing for the fences to get spin, because you have a pretty high launch angle, but not crazy erratic. It feels like a solid, no frills, no technology racket. That's how I perceived it. String setup, top notch. It's like O-Toro. Really works well with Sync. Sync is really an underrated string, I think, especially in hybrids.
It's a workhorse string. Like, it never disappoints me. It always like performs to a minimum 7 out of 10, which is rare. Like, a lot of strings will only work with some rackets.
Yeah. This one is kind of, which is good, because like otherwise you have to test a lot of setups and you to get into it.
Yeah.
Also, I like now we added a bit of extra weight thanks to the extra overgrip I got. I really feel like now it's a bit more my balance as well, like compared to trying it without the extra overgrip.
Yeah.
So just at top, like, I understand why you use this. Like, you first hit, you're like, okay, this is good. This is a good racket. No frills, just very solid. I really hope they keep pushing this one because of the lack of dampening while still being comfortable, because I don't feel any arm issues at all, especially with the right string. What's the tension approx?
So my usual tension's 52.
Yeah.
I strung it at 56, knowing that I was going to go on the plane, and they're a bit worn. Like, we've been hitting and shooting photo shoots for Tennis Warehouse all week, so fortunately I couldn't get you a fresh setup, which
it's probably down to like 50 now or something, maybe like 51.
Yeah, I think now it's playing a little bit looser than I would like.
Yeah, it's a little bit looser, but
especially it's a little bit warmer here. Like, now in Vancouver, it's quite cold, so I like dropping it down.
Yeah. Then you shouldn't play too high, because then your arm falls off.
Yeah.
No, awesome setup. You've done a good job.
What would you change to make it yours?
I would just add more weight in the handle, like with this grip. That would have been it. Like, the leather now adds weight, and then you had another one which is more your type of grip, like the dry grip.
Yeah.
I could play with this one for sure. I wouldn't add any weight in the hoop, I think, because it's pretty solid as is. You said the swing weight was like higher, 335 or something?
336 with the strings I have now, because O-Toro's
and the dampener?
and the dampener. O-Toro's 123, so with a normal like 125 string, it's up to like 328. Like Grapple Snake, it's at 338. I mean, which is it's heavy, and it's crazy that that was my stock setup. Like, sucks for quality control, but happened to work so well for me. So sometimes you win the lottery, sometimes you lose the lottery.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it's sometimes, this to sell it to like a rec player would be a bit much if you're 336.
Yeah. Do you think it swings like 336?
No, it swings much faster.
It swings
especially
much
now with the weight.
faster.
Like I don't really think about the swing weight, and that's a good thing. Like if you start thinking about the swing weight for a racket, I think
it's
something's
too
wrong.
much.
Like you can, like the Gravity Pro sometimes come in really high. It's a nice racket, but you're starting to feel like this is now moving slower and slower and slower after time passes, right? This one, no.
Like, what do you think it is? Because, like, you know, you asked Babolat why does this swing fast for its swing weight, and they're gonna say the Aero Beam.
Yeah,
do you buy that?
Yeah, I could buy some of that. Like it does, like when you try to flatten out, like it's gonna go a little bit. I mean, now it's also the string loosen up a bit. I feel like it can go a bit too much. But if you're playing with like a bit more your style grip, like under the ball, I think this is kind of very whippy like this, you know.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel like it's so slow that you can't go through. It's just like a bit too much power. So I don't know. Like it's a good question. I think aerodynamic properties of a racket make sense. It depends a lot on swing style though. So if like, let's say you bump up the Pro Staff we tried to like a 340, I think it still would play pretty fast.
I think, this.
Because it's a thin beam, so it still moves. It's more a traditional racket. Like
Is this 97 V14 one of the most underrated rackets on the market?
I think I think the issue with this racket was for a lot of people the cosmetic. Like the cosmetic made people like, oh, it's brown, it should be black.
Yeah.
And everybody's a traditionalist in the tennis nerd space. Many are. But it's actually like, it's dampened, but it's not like you don't feel the ball, you know? It's like, it has a good feel to it.
I think it's so solid.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I liked about it.
It's very solid for, like, if you compare here, like this is technically a power spin racket and this is like a control racket, but you get like a nice solid feel. The sweet spot is pretty big for a Pro Staff.
It's pretty big. I can get a lot of spin. This is with 4G as well, which
and
is
it's
not
like
a
now
spin
down
string.
to like 35 pounds or something.
Yeah, but I like how it is.
This is like a demo I got from Wilson, and when I played against the Wilson guys, very strong D1 players, ex-D1 players, I felt like this one was like maybe the most solid of the rackets I tried. So I'm like, oh, I like this, and then they say, oh, you can keep it because it's a demo. So it's a really good stick. But yeah, I can understand why you were playing matches with this one.
Thank you.
I'll hit some serves with this one.
Yeah, it's a monster. Okay,
Cool,
thank
man.
you. Bye.
That's good.
All right, here I am using my own racket. I'm gonna kick Jonas's ass as per usual.